This is week 1, and it's time to visit with Nick Benson and Latham Seed. Nick and I catch up each and every spring through fall harvest, talking about things that are taking place in the field. Nick, thanks for joining us, and welcome back. Happy spring.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Good to be here again.
Fantastic to hear such a familiar voice, and I know a lot of our listeners have been anticipating our interviews as we talk about things that happen from the field each and every week. Now, before we get into our interview, let's just remind our listeners that they can catch this interview on AM 950 KOEL each and every Wednesday afternoon about this time, about 12:40, and they can also catch it on the AM 950 KOEL website. We'll have it posted there. And Nick, you post this as well, correct?
Yeah, we have it up every Wednesday on our blog, too, as far as our weekly crop report. Good place to go. And also on our blog, thefieldphysician.com, we have crop reports from all over the upper Midwest.
So one way or another, you can find us if you really want to get in touch with us and want to listen to what we talk about each week.
Yep, absolutely, Liz.
This year is so much different already than it was last year. Last year at this time, we were talking about needing the temperatures in the soils to warm up. And obviously, we're beyond that already. And with the rain this week, this has changed the field for this year. What's some advice you have for our farmers?
Yeah, it's definitely, every year is a different year. And if you look back for the last 2 years, me as well as my customers and probably most farmers in the countryside is a little gun shy on waiting to plant. We had such late planting the last 2 years. So, last week soils did warm up into the lower 50s here in northeast Iowa. We had a great shot of windy, dry, sunny weather and created a nice opportunity to get out in the fields.
And have you seen much activity taking place yet, Nick? Obviously, with the rain, that's going to slow things down. But have you seen much activity in the fields?
Different parts of Iowa got much more corn in the ground than we did. I would say in the northeast part of the state here, I would say we're under 5%. If you get into the southern part of northeast Iowa, that probably got closer to 10%. But one thing that did happen, which was very good, is we had a lot of anhydrous get applied, and then most of the field work. So when things do dry out, we'll be able to pin our ears back and get this seed in the ground.
Well, let's hope we don't have a race again this year. Let's just take it slow and easy. That would be much appreciated, I'm sure.
Yeah, it would be nice to get our corn in the ground. We like to have it in the ground by May 5th or May 10th, and it would be incredible if this was the last shot of rain here for a couple of weeks and we dried out. But I would project we don't get back into the fields. The way things are looking this week with the cooler weather, we probably won't get back in till the end of the week. But once we do get into the fields, we'll be able to go hard and heavy and try to get this corn in the ground.
Of course, once we get done with the corn, we'll be switching over to the beans. What kind of soil temperatures are we looking at when it's come time to plant the beans? What is our optimal?
Yeah, it's a good question because corn, at this stage in the game, we're going to be, far enough along into April once it dries out that soil temperatures probably dip back below 50 here just for a few days, but they'll get back up there again, and I'd recommend planting as soon as soils are fit. With beans, on the other hand, we really recommend those soil temperatures to be in the 60s. I'm all for early planting on soybeans in the sense that we get good canopy closure, get better, pod setting because of that, as well as good weed management that way. However, if we plant too early, those beans are susceptible. So I really don't like to plant beans until May 1st if possible, and at least until the soil's in the 60s. I would be okay with April if the extended forecast was nice and warm. But we got to be careful a little bit when we plant those beans.
So we talked about temperature and dates, but there's a couple other things that factor in when we're planting in as well, and that's more dealing with the depth and how shallow or how deep to plant the beans and the corn.
Yeah, my recommendation there for corn as a general rule of thumb is 2 inches. Especially right now, I don't see any abnormally dry conditions, so I wouldn't recommend shallow or going deeper. I really wouldn't recommend any shallower than that. Once you get below 1.5 inches or shallower than 1.5 inches, you can run into some problems with rootless corn syndrome. Basically, that first set of nodal roots won't brace themselves properly later on in the season. So we do recommend that 2 inches. Any deeper than that, we can run into some uneven stands and just emergence. We really want the magic number is 80 to 90% of our seeds to emerge within 24 hours of each other. Obviously not within planting, but of each other. And that's hard to do if you get over 2 inches deep.
So definitely some things for our farmers to be thinking about as they're getting ready to take on whatever Mother Nature is going to dish out this spring for us. Nick, do you have any other advice for our farmers before they hit the field?
Well, when you're talking about seed depth, one other big thing there is to slow down, to keep that around 4, at maximum 5 miles an hour, depending on field conditions. If you get going too fast, then you can get planter bounce, and that will alter our seed depth. And so we want every seed planted perfectly at 2 inches once again, so we can shoot for that 80 to 90% emergence within 24 hours of each other. And when that happens, all of those seedlings turn into, producing plants, not weeds, and we don't have this uneven height going on. And so those are incredibly important. Liz, in the past, a lot of times it's mid-May before we get into the fields, hot and heavy the last 2 years, so we still have time, and so slow her down, plant it at 2 miles an hour, and enjoy the ride.
That all sounds like perfect advice to start off this year with our From the Field interview. Like I said, we do this each and every week. Nick Benson from Latham Seed. Nick, let's remind our listeners how they can get in touch with you if they need more information or they want to, bend your ear a little bit about their farming practices.
Yeah, the best way, Liz, on my cell phone, 319-415-2312. And once again, that's 319-415-2312. Available pretty much any time. If I don't answer it, I'll call you back.
And, of course, check us out on thefieldposition.com and check out lathamseeds.com as well. Nick Benson, thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Yeah, it's always my pleasure, Liz.